Careful choreography at a parade ground just above the ancient city of Jericho in the Jordan Valley. New cadets put through their paces at the Palestine College of Police Sciences, funded in part by countries including Canada, still invested in building foundations for an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. But with the Israeli occupation now in its 56th year, that prospect seems as shriveled as the dry land surrounding the Dead Sea in the distance. There are now more than 500,000 Israeli settlers living in the occupied territories, including East Jerusalem, pushing the notion of a viable Palestinian state ever further away. Kiryat Arba is a settlement next to Hebron, where some 800 hardline Jewish religious settlers live, protected by Israeli soldiers in the middle of 200,000 Palestinians who have to navigate a series of checkpoints to walk through the center of their own city, no longer a bustling economic hub. Palestinians can't drive cars in the center either. Isa is now in his 70s.
If I need ambulance, the ambulance will take maybe 1 hour or 2 hours. When he's coming, he's taking the man who's ill here. Maybe we'll die.
Hebron is the only Palestinian city with an Israeli settlement right in its very heart. The settlers who live here are already extreme. Now they have two of their own in the Israeli government. Itamar Ben-Gvir, who leads the Jewish Power Party, is the new national security minister, previously convicted of inciting racism against Palestinians and supporting a terrorist organization. He's called for the annexation of the occupied West Bank and for the expulsion of Palestinian citizens of Israel if they're deemed disloyal. Settler spokesman Noam Al-Non isn't a fan of Ben-Gvir, but only because he says he's too open about his plans.
They brought it to the people as a punch to the face. It was not created. It must be built easily, slowly, cleverly, which has not been done.
Palestinians living in Hebron say things are going from bad to worse.
The settlements, no one can stop them. We're sorry to say that, but the settlements, no one can stop them.
Ramallah, home to the Palestinian Authority and President Mahmoud Abbas, now in his 80s and still clinging to power, ruling, say critics, increasingly by decree. 77% of Palestinians want him to resign. That's not particularly surprising, but what is that for the first time, over half of those surveyed in a recent poll backed the dissolution of the Palestinian Authority itself. Lawyer Diala Ayesh is one of them.
أكيد إحنا بنحس بطريقة معينة إنه
It impedes resistance against the occupation, she says. It makes people think of the Palestinian Authority as a collaborator. The PA is expected to share intelligence and cooperate with Israel on security matters, according to the Oslo Peace Accords that created it in the 1990s. Critics say it was set up to fail, aimed at preventing attacks against Israelis with no such protections for Palestinians. With the PA accused of corruption and its security forces of brutal crackdowns on dissent, there's little loyalty on the ground. One of the solutions could be for us to dismantle the PA and go back to live under full occupation, says Ayesh. She believes it would strengthen the hand of armed Palestinian resistance. Previous Israeli governments have allowed, supported, or encouraged the settlement enterprise, but analyst Noor Odeh says this one is different.
They're not happy to just continue building settlements. They want to reach a point where Palestinians no longer ask for freedom.
What kind of pressure would you say that what's happening there is currently placing on the Palestinian Authority in particular?
The PA cannot pay its civil servants full salaries, cannot protect its civilians from Israeli attacks, from Israeli settlers. doesn't really have a seat at the table.
It all combines, she says, to leave the PA in the role of a beggar, going cap in hand to Israel and to an international community, simply going through the motions when it comes to the two-state solution.
So, Margaret, we saw those weeks of protests by so many Israelis objecting to judicial reforms that could pave the way for more settlement. What does that suggest?
Yeah, Adrienne, you know, Israeli voices advocating a return to the peace process have really been absent here in the mainstream in recent years. That narrative taking hold that Israel doesn't have a partner for peace in the Palestinians. The new government that has, come to the being full of nationalist, religious Jews advocating unbridled settlement is actually forcing the issue of the occupation back out onto the table. And it's happening because Israelis are trying to decide what kind of country they want to live in. And they know that the coalition government in place right now knows exactly what kind of country it wants to live in.
All right, Margaret Evans in Jerusalem tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome.